So this is the 2050 hours GMT edition of the Khoodeelaar television channel part B on Sunday, the 2nd of April 2023. In part A, we broadcast about 20 minutes of our usually world exclusive original analysis, this time based on the indictment and the propaganda issued by the evilness personified, that is Donald Trump, through his lawyer so-called insisting or defiantly stating that their client, Trump, would not wear handcuffs as he surrenders in response to the outstanding arrest warrant following the indictment. This is ridiculous. And the role of the Western print media outlets, imitated by the television networks, is equally condemnable and reprehensible in repeating a series of bullshit. They are not reporting the truth about the US society, and they are not reporting the truth about the impact on the society of the criminality, the evilness personified by the Satan, Donald Trump. He's a crook. He's been a lifelong crook, and he's a liar. He's the congenital liar before the congenital lying of Boris Johnson was acknowledged and recognized. Donald Trump is as festering in criminality as Jeffrey Archer and other notorious liars. But unlike Trump, those two examples are less. I mean, it's a very difficult choice of words that has to be made. Less detrimental to the world than the evilness personified by Donald Trump. Why? Because of the actual extent to which the office of the US president has influences, impacts on the rest of the world. And there being no moral framework to actually check and hold to account a personification of evil like Donald Trump, who is in office of president, who was in office of president. What happened with the arrival in the formal of White House was that a plethora of revelations had to be publicized because of the stench that they infected the whatever society there was in the USA with. I mean, the main allegations included Donald Trump's a very wide range of criminal conduct and utterances about sex. It's not just a one-off adulterous sexual incident. the extent to which Trump contaminated the narrative and the discourse was absolutely evil because there was no counter to stop him and to stop him morally or ethically. Let's check one of the early writers on Trump since he entered the office of president. One of the earliest revelations, completely corrupting. Of course, the first book that Michael Wolff published was, I think, the most comprehensive first one. And the one that he wrote about a year ago, Landslide Review. And the reviewer in The Guardian said about this book, the Landslide Review, Michael Wolff's third Trump book is his best and most alarming. And that is where the evilness of Trump is acknowledged in a way that had not been acknowledged in the previous books. The first one was his book, the Michael Wolff, Fire and Fury. And the second one was Siege. And the third one is Landslide. And according to this reviewer in The Guardian, let's see, well, look for the word alarming. Wolff's interview, Wolff was allowed an interview by Trump eventually. Wolff's interview with Trump is notable. It is held in the lobby at Mar-a-Lago, the Florida resort to which Trump retreated. The club's throne room, in the author's words, is filled with blonde mothers and blonde daughters, infinitely buxom. This is absolutely the expression of Trump's mentality and fecundity and lust on parade. a palace built in its creator's image. The interview is an exercise in Trumpian score settling. Trump brands Chris Christie, the former New Jersey governor, brutally fired from the transition in 2016, a very disloyal guy, apparently payback for a debate preparation session that stung Trump with its ferocity, laying bare his vulnerabilities as others watched. Christie told Trump what he didn't want to hear about his handling of COVID 19. He bandied about expressions such as blood on your hands and failure. He also reminded Trump that while Hunter Biden, his opponent's scandal magnate son, was a one off, there was a whole bunch of Trump kids to target. Their father was unamused. Trump, turning to the Supreme Court, Trump lashes out at Brett Kavanaugh and John Roberts, the Chief Justice. Trump accuses Kavanaugh of lacking courage and vents his disappointment in this most controversial pick for the bench. Under Roberts, the justices refused to overturn the election, so Trump had little use for them. He also takes aim at the Republican leader in the House. Apparently, Kevin McCarthy's abject prostration still left something to be desired. Trump calls Andrew Cuomo, now New York's governor, but once in a way Trump's own lawyer, a thug. He has kind words for Roy Cohn, another Trump lawyer, before that aide to Joe McCarthy in the witch hunts of the 1950s, who that four-letter word far better. But he's long dead. Bill Barr, the Attorney General, who made the Mueller report go away but wouldn't back the big lie and resigned before the end, fares badly. Trump laments 4 years of absolute scam and treachery and fake witch hunts. So the indictment that Trump and Trump's so-called heartland supporters are condemning as a witch hunt is not new at all. Witch hunt has been there. Every evil that Trump has done, and every evil that has been actually within the reach of the public, is a witch hunt. Trump laments 4 years of absolute scum and treachery and fake witch hunts. Introspection was never his strongest suit. I've done 1,000 things that nobody has done, he claims. Landslide home seen on the bond between Trump and his supporters. Wolf sees that the relationship is unconventional and organic. Trump was never just a candidate. He also led a movement. He knew nothing about government. They knew nothing about government. So the context of government itself became beside the point. The bond was rooted in charisma. Trump was the star, never forgot that. And the base was his audience. Landslide acknowledges that Trump's efforts to overturn the election were born of his disregard for democratic norms and inability to acknowledge defeat. His legal and political arguments wafted out of the fever swamps of the fringes. As drowning men longed for lifebelts, so Trump, Giuliani, and Powell clung on. Wolf is open to criticism when he argues that the path between the 6th of January insurrection and Trump is less than linear. Those who stormed the Capitol may well have been Trump's people, Wolf argues. But what happened was not his brainchild. 6 months ago, Trump also put distance between himself and the day's events. Not anymore. Trump has embraced the supposed martyrdom of Ashley Babbitt, the Air Force veteran who endeavored to storm the House chamber, where members were sheltering in place. Boom, he said on 7th of July. Right through the head. Just boom. There was no reason for that. And why isn't that person being opened up? And why isn't that being studied? Beyond that, say that again. Beyond that, ProPublica has produced a paper trail that supports the conclusion senior Trump aides knew the reality the stage near the White House on 6th of January could turn chaotic. What more we learn What more we learn will depend on a House Select Committee. Wolf also fails to grapple with the trend in red states towards wresting control of elections from the electorate and putting them into the hands of Republican legislatures. Trump's false contention that the presidential election was stolen is now an article of faith among Republican and QAnon novitiates. Ballot audits funded by dark money are a new fixture of the political landscape. Democracy looks in danger, etc., etc. Trump tells Wolf his base feel cheated and they are angry. Populism isn't about all of the people, just some of them. As for responsibility, Trump washes his hands. On closing Wolf's third Trump book, it seems possible it will not be his last after all. All the trauma of 2020 may just have been prelude to a Trump Biden rematch. Landslide by Michael Wolff, Little Brown Book Group, 20 pounds. To support The Guardian and Observer, order your copy at guardianbookshop.com. Delivery charges may apply. Now, what this review also fails to do is to put in context not only just Trump and the Democrats and the entire US system, it fails to tell the truth about the fact that the whole USA is a falsehood, is based on serial genocides, serial genocides, serial genocides, genocides that not only match in numbers the victims but exceed the numbers of the victims of the Holocaust. That is what is missing, and that is what is actually lacking in the so called commentary and journalism. And that is the context of The Guardian itself owning up to its founders benefiting from slavery. As we have posted, let's read the tweets that the Khoodeelaar campaign has posted today, Sunday, on The Guardian. So the first one hour ago, this is 21:03 hours, so it's 20:03 hours approximately. We wrote originally, world exclusively, the racist slavery profiteering Guardian is festering in its confessions, as it is exploiting the willingness of a handful of its approved black historians who are corrupting the narrative by denying the truth about the Guardian's evil, racist, crusader roles still on, meaning still ongoing. And the tweet next to that is the contemporary example. That was 54 minutes. So 6 minutes later, we posted this one. The contemporary example of the mental slaves corrupting, aggravating roles, see the previous tweet, is the evil silence on the 5 black-skinned USA policemen beating to death an innocent black man who was begging them to stop and let him go home. Then we refer to the tweets about 2 hours ago. Evilness personified by Trump is summed up by a Trump supporter, as quoted in the Sunday Times, London, today, Sunday, the 2nd of April 2023. And that summary is, let's say, where is the quote? It says, and I'm saying this from memory. Trump just sucked up all the oxygen in the room. What they're referring to is, of course, from the article written by Hugh Tomlinson. Is it Hugh Tomlinson or George Clancy? Let's see. Yes, it's not Hugh Tomlinson. This piece is on page 18 of the Sunday Times today, that is 2nd of April 2023, and it's Josh Glancy. And we shall be taking a look at Camilla Long, her piece about Trump. Let's be honest, all US men secretly admire the dandruffy tycoon who squared a porn star. Well, squaring a porn star is a phrase that I haven't come across until now. So this is a picture in Camilla Long's piece. That picture with Trump and Stormy Daniels at the time when they met at the golf tournament where the porn studio she worked for was sponsoring a hole. And Camilla Long is saying, America has the most arse out, crime-ridden history of any nation. So we shall come to that later in this section. So this is the piece that Josh Glancy has written, and the heading is Behind Bars and in Power. It's not such a stretch in Trump's world. What he's saying is that the ex-president's historic indictment doesn't stop him running for the White House, and it might even help. That is to say, he might even get elected. That's what Josh Glancy is saying. He's also saying that the indictment is being treated as political gold by his, quote, his people. And Josh Glancy is saying about this. This is, of course, centering on the whole thing. The base being Trump's contract with Stormy Daniels. It began with a Playboy bunny, hinged on the actions of an errant pecker, and has ended with the first indictment of an American president. As landmarks in his history go, this one bears the unique signature of Donald J. Trump. as do the checks the 45th president gave to his former lawyer Michael Cohen, allegedly to reimburse Cohen for hush money payoffs to Stormy Daniel, to one Stormy Daniels with an S, porn star, hero of the left, and tip of a legal spear that has pierced the impregnable armor of Trumpiness that somehow kept the Donald out of handcuffs there these past 76 years. Until now, it seems. After all the legal threat to Trump, from the Mueller inquiry to the January 6th riots at the Capitol building, in the end, it was the porn star that did it. To understand why, take yourself back to October 2016. The presidential election is a month away. Trump is trailing in the polls behind Hillary Clinton. His campaign is still reeling from the release of the infamous Access Hollywood tape, in which he boasted of grabbing women by the pussy. Female voters, in particular, are turning away from him. Senior Republicans are disavowing him. Now, this is what we started this edition with, that he is obsessed with sex in a way that nobody should be. Then word reaches the campaign that another, even more salacious story might become public, an alleged sexual encounter Trump had with a porn star. Danielle's real name, Stephanie Clifford, well, her name is being mentioned differently because here it is Stephanie Clifford, and elsewhere she has been referred to as having the real name Stephanie Gregory. I mean, Clifford is the one that I think is most commonly used. Gregory is the new one that I came across for the first time this weekend. And the encounter took place in a hotel room in Nevada. The supposed dalliance took place in 2006, just months after his wife, Melania, had given birth to their son, Baron. This unexploded landmine came to the attention of David Pecker, the owner of the National Enquirer, a tabloid gossip magazine. Pecker had a long relationship with Trump and had already helped his campaign catch and kill, buy the exclusive rights and never publish. A story about an alleged affair between the presidential nominee, and Karen McDougal, a Playboy model. Pecker alerted Cohen, and sure enough, $130,000 found its way to Daniels. Her silence was bought. Trump became president. Now that's very fast. That is exactly what happened. The two sentences would not be possible without the bribe, silence the bribe, the slush money, the harsh money. The legal consequences for Cohen and now Trump began to unfold in January 2018 when the Wall Street Journal published a marmalade dropper of a story detailing the hush money payments to Daniels. Federal prosecutors and the FBI opened an investigation. By spending his own money on keeping Daniels stum, had Cohen made what amounted to an illegal contribution to the Trump presidential candidate? Question mark. It turned out he had. In August 2018, Trump's personal lawyer pleaded guilty to making an excessive campaign contribution for the purposes of influencing an election, along with several other charges. Cohen was sentenced to 3 years in prison, much of which he served at home because of the COVID pandemic. Trump, under the guise of Individual One, I think, was named as co-conspirator in this felony. In fact, as part of his guilty plea, Michael Cohen did a plea. Cohen even pointed the finger at the president and said explicitly that he was acting in coordination and at the direction of a candidate for federal office. Cohen could not be more elegant in his betrayal of the truth. Trump, however, was not pursued because of Justice Department guidelines that warned against prosecuting a sitting president. So that's the reason. That is the reason. It's a technical reason completely. That changed when he left office. Over the past 2 years, various US prosecutors have been sitting through the morass of Trump's long and litigious life, searching for a means to hold him properly accountable. Other cases are looming. There are claims he violated election laws in 2020 by trying to pressure officials in Georgia to swing the state his way. And of course, there are all the classified documents the FBI removed from the Mar-a-Lago. I'll read that again. And of course, there are all the classified documents the FBI removed from Mar-a-Lago during a raid last year. I have dropped the D that the or the that I had added, which isn't in the script. Alvin Bragg, 49, the district attorney for Manhattan, began investigating Trump when he entered office in 2022. A veteran prosecutor and an elected Democrat in the city that despises Trump, its native son, there was pressure on him to get results. At first, he looked into the business practices of the Trump organization, which have at times made the Corleone family look transparent. Now, we shall look up the Corleone family, which is obviously a meaningful, significant comparison because Corleone must be very corrupt indeed. But he didn't feel sure moving forward with the prosecution. That changed when he picked up the cold Stormy Daniels trail. His optimism hinges on Cohen, a man who once said he would take a bullet for the former president, having been humiliated, discarded, derided, and eventually imprisoned because of its association with Trump. Cohen is out for revenge. He has met with Bragg's office about 20 times and already testified against Trump twice in private. The man is corruption incarnate. Well, we call him evil personified, but that is a phrase that Michael Cohen used before we spotted it now. The man more will come to light. Cohen told me in 2020. Unlike most of his threats, this one appears to have come true. And so Bragg went for it. In January, Bragg empaneled a grand jury, a group of citizens empowered by the US law to decide whether criminal charges should be brought in a case. As of last weekend, everyone expected the grand jury to break for a month. A decision was not seen as imminent. Then on Thursday, it handed down a stunning indictment. An indictment is a charging document that states the grand jury believes there is enough evidence to formally accuse someone of a crime. Trump's will remain sealed until Tuesday, when he is expected to be arraigned in a Manhattan courthouse, and about 30 charges relating to his case are likely to be revealed. Trump will also be led into the bowels of the New York State Courthouse. He will be fingerprinted, he will be photographed, he could even be handcuffed, though it seems likely the court will spare him that indignity or political photo opportunity, depending on how you see it. To call this moment historic is putting it mildly. Watergate was historic, but Richard Nixon was never put in the dock. Presidents have been impeached, Trump twice, but never in the 247-year history of the American Republic has a president or ex president been indicted 247 years. Even Trump, who broke the news of his impending arrest 2 weeks ago, was reportedly shocked when the indictment was revealed. Those who know this legal Houdini will often tell you his biggest fear is ending up in handcuffs. Yet it didn't take him too long to regain his stride, and he was seen dining and greeting well wishers at Mar-a-Lago on Thursday night. In a statement released on Friday, he called the indictment a witch hunt and described it as a political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history. Publicly, at least, Melania appears to have taken the news with her usual sang-froid. She appeared alongside her husband at dinner on Thursday in an eye-catching red dress. She is known to dislike hearing about Stormy Daniels, but sources close to her have told reporters she plans to stick by Trump. Of course, she does. I mean, it's profitable, very profitable for her indeed, through the scandal, as she has through others, and hope it blows over. It won't. Well, Josh Glancy said it may not. I have said it won't, but he says it may not. The US is in uncharted waters. I'll read that again because I left one word. The US is in uncharted waters. So I left out in. The pro Trump MAGA, Make America Great Again movement has been galvanized, and protests are expected in New York on Tuesday, with every cop in town told to be on duty. Much is yet to be revealed about the case against Trump, but it will likely hinge on the payments he made in 2017 while president to reimburse Cohen for the money he spent keeping Daniels quiet. The Trump organization has internal records claiming these payments to Cohen were related to legal experience. I'll read that again. The Trump organization has internal records claiming these payments to Cohen were related to legal expenses and a retainer agreement. If these documents are untrue, then Trump could be guilty of falsification of business records. And if this were done in the service of an illegal campaign contribution, then it could be a felony punishable by up to 4 years in prison. Bragg is handling political dynamite. If the prosecution fails, his career will surely be over. Does he know what he is doing? Because the case is not a slam dunk, it's complex and unprecedented and involves applying New York state law to actions involving a federal election campaign. It has been said that grand juries will indict a ham sandwich. That is interesting. But a criminal jury is a different proposition. A unanimous verdict beyond reasonable doubt is required. Still, in deep blue democratic New York, a jury dispatching Trump to Rikers Island or somewhere similar is far from inconceivable. The political implications of this indictment are head spinning. How messy could it get? Trump's legal strategy is likely to involve delaying tactics. So a trial could be a year away, by which point Trump could be on the verge of becoming the Republican nominee for 2024's presidential election. He's still the favorite, after all, and prosecution doesn't prevent him from winning the White House. He could then, theoretically at least, run the most powerful country in the world from behind bars. In electoral terms, Trump and his advisors know this is good news. Everyone around Trump recognizes this is political gold, said one Republican close to the former president. If Trump doesn't become the nominee, then this election interference has worked and the corrupt prosecutors have won. We can't let that happen. Such is the outrage among Republican voters that would be nominees, from Mike Pence to Nikki Haley, have had to fall into line and criticize the indictment. Even Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, who is Trump's fiercest potential rival, came out and called it un American. This has happened at the worst possible time for DeSantis, said the Republican close to Trump. At the exact moment he needed to calm donors and show positive movement, Trump just sucked up all the oxygen in the room, as he always does. For those who lived through the dysfunction of the Trump years, this legal drama has provoked a kind of horrifying nostalgia. We are in 2016 once more. America has been drawn back into the swirling vortex of the never ending Trump show, and there is no end in sight. That's the end of the whole piece that I have read now, written by or byline to Josh Glantz in the Sunday Times. We shall move later to Camilla Long's piece. Now we have another piece from the Saturday, the weekend Financial Times, the front page, which is had a Trump to turn himself in as indictment rocks US politics. And there are three subheadings: hush money allegations, ex president claims witch hunt, and 2024 election uncertainty. And there are three names in the list of byliners: Joe Miller in New York, Lauren Fido, and James Politi in Washington. Donald Trump will turn himself in to New York prosecutors rather than be put in handcuffs, as the former US president readied himself for criminal charges that have shaken American politics in the run up to the 2024 election. Joe Tacopina, Trump's defense attorney, said that he expected the charges, the first criminal indictment in history of an ex US president, to relate to payments to buy the silence of porn actress Stormy Daniels. Tacopina added that Trump would travel to the court on Tuesday for the expected arraignment. He is not going to hole up in Mar-a-Lago. Tacopina told television networks. The president will not be put in handcuffs, Tacopina said. Trump's court appearance is set to shape the 2024 campaign alongside other possible prosecutions. A federal probe is examining his handling of classified documents and possible liability for the January 6th attack on Capitol Hill in 2021, while another investigation is taking place in Georgia. The former president has vowed that his push for a second term would not be halted by criminal proceedings. The pending charges do not technically prevent him from seeking higher office. Posting on his own Truth Social platform, Trump railed against the witch hunt case in New York, adding that Juan Manuel Marchan, the judge reportedly assigned to it, hates me. In an apparent reference to the legal arguments that he is expected to face in Manhattan, Trump said that such a case had never been charged before. Well, such a criminal has never been found in the office or seeking the office of the president before. Manhattan prosecutors late on Thursday said that they were coordinating Trump's surrender with his legal team after a grand jury voted behind closed doors to indict him. Michael Cohen, a former lawyer for Trump who testified in front of the grand jury in recent weeks, has claimed that he was ordered to pay $130,000 to Daniels to cover up an alleged affair. Tacopina contended that the payments made in the run up to the 2016 election were completely legal. The transactions have been the subject of a years long probe by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which has been investigating whether they were falsely recorded as legal fees by the Trump campaign. Tacopina said the records in question were purely internal. No one else relied on them. There is no crime. There is not even a bad act, he said. Trump's critics and allies concur. The charges may energize his most loyal supporters, but his legal ooze could dent his chances in an election. A poll this week found 57% of Americans said criminal charges should disqualify him from running for president. 57%. So that's on page one of the FT Weekend, dated Saturday, the 1st of April to Sunday, the 2nd of April 2023. And its price is £4 80 pence, and the Republic of Ireland is £4 90 pence. The FT Weekend, that is the piece that I have just read. What is that? That is the maximum the camera can catch. So the Trump entitlement. This is the whole narrative. The line is that he feels entitled. That he says that any attempt to hold him to account is a witch hunt, is politically motivated. That's a lie. On the front page of the Sunday Times, the piece written by Hugh Tomlinson from Wisconsin, Waukesha. Now, that is genocide. Waukesha, the Wisconsin. Let's check what the Wisconsin town is described as. Waukesha, that is the pronunciation given in the Wikipedia, is the county seat of Waukesha County, Wisconsin, United States. It's part of the Milwaukee metropolitan area. Its population was 71,158 at 2020 census. The city is adjacent to the village of Waukesha. in the Tomlinson piece that is filed from Hugh Tomlinson's piece in the Sunday Times has been filed from there. Waukesha now encompasses was first settled by European Americans in 1834, with Maurice D. Cutler as its first settler. When the first settlers arrived, there was nothing but dense virgin forest and wild prairie. The settlers laid out farms, constructed roads, erected government buildings, and established post routes. Now, look at the description they're given. Founders. These are genocidists, massacres, murderers. The original murderers of Waukesha consisted entirely of settlers from New England, particularly Connecticut and Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, as well as some from upstate New York, who were born to parents who had migrated to that region from New England shortly after the American Revolution. These people were Yankee settlers. In other words, they were descended from the English Puritans who settled New England in the 1600s. They're part of a wave of New England farmers who headed west into what was then the wilds of the Northwest Territory during the early 1800s. Most of them arrived as a result of the completion of the Erie Canal as well as the end of the Black Hawk War. When they arrived in what is now Waukesha County, the New Englanders laid out farms, constructed roads, erected government buildings, and established post routes. They brought with them many of their Yankee New England values, such as a passion for education, establishing many schools as well as staunch support for abolitionism. They were mostly members of the Congregationalist Church, though some were Episcopalian. Due to the Second Great Awakening, some of them had converted to Methodism and some had become Baptists before moving to what is now Waukesha County. Waukesha, like much of Wisconsin, would be culturally very continuous with early New England culture for most of its early history, etc., etc. So there is a kind of moderation. It's the South, it's in the South, isn't it? Moderation in the description of the place. We are going to look at the comment by Private Lie about the Louise Casey review of the London Metropolitan Police. The Private Lie, let's say, is a racist publication and platform, and it is venomously anti-Muslim, and its coverage and references to issues of racism are manifestly reluctant. So this one raised to the bottom, and it's under in the back on page 39 of this issue number 1595, covering the fortnight 31st of March to 20th of April 2023. And it is reluctant because it doesn't talk about racism at all. And it doesn't talk about day-to-day racism. It doesn't talk about most of the police racism, and it doesn't refer to the racist murder or what the Metropolitan Police targeted, thinking that the target was a Muslim Pakistani of Pakistani origin. This is the Brazilian man that they murdered in cold blood, shot dead on the underground at the in the London borough of Lambeth. So private law doesn't talk about racism, doesn't talk about genocide of Muslims, massacres of Muslims, and it only refers to Muslims in the most reluctant way. And this piece about the Casey review is typically racist in itself. What it does, the entirety of the London Metropolitan Police, as well as the entirety of the operation of the police forces across England, can be summed up as being representative in terms of the culture, in terms of the priorities, in terms of the behavior, and in terms of the brazen impunity each police force is allowed over the racist behavior of individual racists employed as policemen and policewomen. So, regardless of Louis Case's review, the police in London, let's say, because it's about the London Metropolitan Police, the police force in London has been known to people in London and people who have come into contact with the police, people of all backgrounds, to be representative of the worst aspects of racism that could be found at any time in the history of the United Kingdom, the last 300 years. Police, the Metropolitan Police in London, has been the model for the apartheid South Africa. Okay? And it is in a state in 2023 that is objectively, on the evidence, wrong to be described as police at all. So it is actually consistent, evidentially, with the analysis that we have been making for several years. And we have focused on the London Metropolitan Police because of the sheer number of people affected by its operations. It's the largest number of people affected by the operations of the London Metropolitan Police. And what we have said over the years is that there is no policing in Britain. I mean, Louis Casey doesn't say that, but that is what we have been saying on the evidence. What there is, called the police, but not behaving as objectively defined policing should behave. What there is under the banner of policing, called Metropolitan Police, New Scotland Yard, etc., is a unfairly, overly funded, publicly funded organization of the biggest organization of wrongdoers. That's what the London Metropolitan Police has been. And as I said about Kim Gordon, during the August 1977 demonstration against racist policing in Deptford in Lewisham on the southern side of the River Thames. Kim Gordon was on the top of the same truck as I was, but I was on the top of the truck taking pictures of the demonstrators that are following the truck. I was not part of the organizers, but I was taking pictures. And Kim Gordon, who was promoted at that time by the SWP Wonkers, who had just become known as the Socialist Workers, changing their name that was International Socialists until a year ago. Kim Gordon kept saying, police are the real muggers. That's on the loudhailer that Kim Gordon was carrying. And the demonstrators on the top of the truck as well as on the street following the truck echoed Kim Gordon and said, police are the real muggers. Now, the reason why Kim Gordon was saying that slogan in August 1977 in Deptford in Lewisham was because that demonstration was held to counter the National Front, the racists, who had organized a demonstration against black people, mainly targeting the black, meaning African and African origin Caribbean ones, as the muggers, making life of the white population a misery. And the police were refusing to take action against the racist National Front. And the police were effectively harassing black youngsters. So that was the context and background against which Kim Gordon was saying that the police were the real muggers. That was August 1977 in a small part of Lewisham called Deptford. And I was there on the top of the truck that Kim Gordon was traveling in as he held the microphone, loudhailer, saying the slogan mainly, police are the real muggers. Now 77, 87, 10 years, 97, 20 years, 2007, 30 years, 2017, 40 years. And then you've got 6 years, 46 years ago. And in the 46 years, the police behavior towards the mainly African origin black people, but not exclusively, because the police discrimination against and hostility towards young people and general public members of Asian backgrounds, like the subcontinent, has been as prejudicial as the police behavior towards people of African origin. But that has been less pronounced because of the comparative number of incidents of encounters and confrontations that have taken place or have been taking place between the London Metropolitan Police and the young people and other targets with the descent from Africa and from the Caribbean with African descent. So what Louise Casey has done, she has produced a racist report about race, sexism, and homophobia in the London Metropolitan Police. Louise Casey herself is a racist, and she is a committed opponent of Muslims generally, and she is a crusader. I don't think there is any need to repeat what I have said about private lie, except to say that this piece raised to the bottom on page 39 of the Private Lie, serial number 1595, covering the fortnight 31st of March to the 20th of April 2023. Cover price I paid £2.99. This piece raised to the bottom under the heading Baroness Casey Review, or the topical review heading of Baroness Casey Review, is a sham, racist, ignorant, incomplete, false, shallow, misleading piece. And a racist piece, of course. We shall be going to Khoodeelaar in today's Sunday Times. Now, in the piece about the Privileges Committee, Private Lie on the main political page 1, which is page 7, the last item on that page, page 7, had a panic attack. So panic is a spelling Panick, is a reference to David Panic, the licensed law trader who has been paid from the public purse. It hasn't been paid. Panick's fees for being on the list of licensed law traders over the Partygate inquiry by the Privileges Committee has been paid from the public treasury. So it says Boris Johnson had 8 months to prepare for the Privileges Committee. He arrived late but managed to keep a straight face while taking an oath of truth, writes MD, aided by 7 publicly funded lawyers. Can you imagine? Sitting behind him was Johnson's barrister, they say Lord Panic, KC, whose face throughout was half Mona Lisa and half irritable bowel syndrome. Now, irritable bowel syndrome, I could call a constipation, that he had problems with his bowel, constipation, relieved only by the clock ticking at £5,000 an hour. The best argument they could master was that Johnson's interpretation of his own rules and laws was different to everyone else's. It was also absurdly illogical. At times of highest viral risk, when Johnson had deemed it essential to impose severe restrictions across the UK, he argued that it was even more essential to hold morale boosting drinks parties with derisory mitigations in an environment so high risk it had previously hospitalized him. Either he had taken leave of his senses, or he simply didn't believe in the restrictions he was ordering others to follow. And then on the next page, there is this item, Boris in the dock. So Boris in the dock on page 8, that's hardly, it cannot be captured by the camera. So it says, pleading hell, Boris in the dock? Well, this is a pleading hell is a kind of version of bloody hell or bleeding hell. MD writes, how could Boris Johnson explain his repeated assurances to the Commons that all the pandemic rules and guidance he instigated were followed at all times? In Downing Street, when 126 people at the heart of his government, including himself, were issued with fixed penalty notices by the police. Did the former Prime Minister lie to the House? Or was he just incompetent, ignorant, incurious, and ill advised? And this is absolutely similar to the way that Donald Trump has behaved and is responding to the application or attempts to apply the rules that are supposed to be applicable to others in society. Okay, so where is Camilla Long? Let's see if Camilla Long is there. So Camilla Long is on page 27. On page 27 of the Sunday Times, today Sunday, 2nd of April 2023. This is 21:55 hours GMT when I'm reading this bit. It says Camilla Long. It's a comment on page 27. Let's be honest, all US men, that is American men, secretly admired the Dendraffy tycoon who squared a porn star. Now, this square word, the verb transitive, is new to me. And she starts the first paragraph. If you are a shameless celebrity hack like yours truly, that is herself, Camilla Long, you will have mixed feelings over the return of Donald Trump. On the one hand, yeah, material. Shady is back. But on the other, how are you going to think up yet more ways to describe the silly Bullock? Peach, Dementia, Tangerine, Bowback? As I've always said, my job is very difficult. This, of course, is the news that the former President of the United States will be arrested on Tuesday, accused of paying hush money to a porn star. He is to be hauled up to, I'll read that paragraph again. He is to be hauled up on 34 counts of falsifying his records to hide payoffs before his election that went to silence Stormy Daniels and a Playboy bunny. In a way, I sympathize with the valiant attempts to stop Stormy speaking, because just reading back over their Channel 5 romp in that Lake Tahoe hotel room in 2006 will make your eyeballs shrivel so far back into your skull that you can never read the words Yeti pubes again. Daniels recalls how she met Trump at a celebrity golf tournament at which the porn star studio she was working for was sponsoring a hole. The star of The Apprentice clocked her in the gifting suite and got his bodyguard to invite her to dinner. When she arrived in his room, she spoke to him about the business side of making porn. And there is a quote, "You get paid more for anal." Before reluctantly deciding she probably had to go through with this beige corporate shag. He wasn't freakishly small, she said, but he did have an unusual penis. It has a huge mushroom head, like a toadstool, she wrote in her memoir. I lay there, annoyed that I was getting by a guy with yeti pubes and a dick like the mushroom character in the Mario Kart. Yes, we are back there again, seeing things we can't unsee and hearing things we can't unhear. My question now is, how far did Stormy dent Trump's reputation? Or more pertinently, how far did she boost it? Because looking at the chaos from 7,000 miles away, Trump Tower has been fenced off. There are more cops on the street in New York. The New York Times has started a live blog. It feels as though she may just have handed the former president the solid gold series premiere he's been craving. She's even said there will be death, which is about as close to an true Hollywood story trailer as it gets. Soon we'll be swept back into the heady madness of the comeback show, in which he is dragged from his brick like golf cart in a biscuit colored monogrammed tracksuit and made to face this legal voodoo, as one of his supporters put it, in the way as Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein. All the old stories will come flooding back. How he has tiny hands, how he once ordered 300 hamburgers for a White House banquet for other people, how he used thank you notepaper so thick you could practically break it in half. As one society photographer once told me when we arrived at Trump Tower to do an article with Trump and his wife Melania. Ah, yes, Melania. How is the Rose of, what's the name of this town she's talking about? Ljubljana, taking the fact that Stormy is back in the news? I'll tell you how she is taking it. In a voluminous FU red Valentinesque gown, the Trumps celebrated his impending Bollocks throne on Thursday by appearing at Mar-a-Lago for one of those weird in-house gala events that scream separate bedrooms. It said that Trump may use the Melania defense in the court case, arguing that he paid off Stormy not because he was running for president, but because he was frightened of Melania. It's a defense that, if it isn't already been entered into statute, surely must be soon. During her time as First Lady, Melania overhauled the Rose Garden to make it look like a consecrated Slovenian war memorial. Every Christmas, she would be pictured picking her way among her flinty ornaments, an arrangement of stalag- stalagmites, the color of blood, basically the decorative equivalent of Gwyneth Paltrow's controversial kiss off. I wish you well. An assistant secretly recorded her on the matter of the Christmas tree. I'm working like my ass off at Christmas. Stuff that you know who gives a fuck about Christmas stuff and decorations. But I need to do it, right? Correct? Correct. Send her out amongst the people. Stormy, meanwhile, is celebrating with champagne, as she has done throughout the whole of this. Through Stormy, though, I feel I have learnt a whole lot of stuff I don't think I ought to have done. I have learned, for example, that when porn stars get pregnant, they start banking. They start banking performance to ensure no one notices they have gone. I have learned that the US is a place where adult entertainment stars can be abused or bust en masse to celebrate golf tournaments. It's bust, I think, yes. I've learned that porn stars aren't even the best sort of guest at golf tournaments. My tits are too big to swing, is what Stormy told Trump. But what she has mainly taught me is that there probably isn't a guy in America who doesn't secretly admire an aging, dandruffy tycoon who manages to rail a gorgeous 27-year-old porn star, even though she wasn't really interested. What comes next? Well, a whole load of Americans telling us how sacred the American Constitution is, how unprecedented this kind of outrage is, as if they're all somehow living in a sober, upstanding, faultless, do gooding utopia, when they have, in fact, the most arse out, tits obsessed, crime ridden history of any nation. It is difficult to see who is more odious, Donald Trump and his Yeti arrangement, or a culture that has taught us it's okay to be prostitutes. So that's the end of the piece by Camilla Long on page 27 of the Sunday Times today about the filthy Donald Trump and the filthy public that admire, that defend him. Okay, so what we can try to check on is the headlines, some of the headlines about the topics that we normally would talk about. What is Imran Khan up to now in Pakistan? So there is a heading. It's not anything really original. There is an ongoing kind of series of items about Imran Khan and the Sharif regime. But there is one item that is some sort of new. So General Bajwa forced me to create friendly ties with India. That is what Imran Khan says. While talking about the political situation, Imran Khan said if the elections were not held in 90 days, there would be no constitution left in the country. And then he would take direct action. Pakistan's ousted Prime Minister Imran Khan has alleged that he was forced by the country's former army chief Qamar Javed Bajwa to create a friendly relations with India. Pakistan's news station Dunia News reported. The leader of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf further said that Bajwa was not a man of principles. He said that Bajwa would say something one day and then retract it the next day. This comes after Pakistan denied having any back channel conversations with New Delhi. Talking about the political state in the country, Imran Khan went on to say that if elections are not held within 90 days, Pakistan will have no constitution. He stated that it would prompt him to take direct action. Earlier at a media briefing, Foreign Office spokesperson Mumtaz Zahra Baluch had said at this stage there is no back channel between Pakistan and India. India and Pakistan have complicated relations with regular cross border terrorism, ceasefire violations, and territorial disputes, among other things. India has maintained its desire for regular ties with its neighbor but has underlined that the onus would be on Islamabad to ensure a terror free atmosphere for such interactions. Even so, there was a possibility of a breakthrough in relations when the two countries participated in back channel negotiations in 2021. According to the Express Tribune, secret negotiations between top security officials of Pakistan and India in the United Arab Emirates resulted in the renewal of a ceasefire agreement along the line of control in February 2021. So that's the only new news item there in featuring Imran Khan now for today's update. So what else can we find? Is Shamima Begum featuring anything? So there is a piece about Pierce Moron shutting down Richard Dawkins during a TV interview while Dawkins refused to speak when asked about Salman Rushdie and Shamima Begum. And there is a Indian origin piece accusing the BBC of being trapped into doing propaganda for Shamima Begum. Well, he refuses to speak. That is being used to condemn him. So this is the continuation of the lying about freedom and free speech and all the rest of it. It's not something that I need to reiterate because, as I said, the British media is absolutely untruthful, dishonest, as well as the rest of the so-called Western English French-speaking media. So this item is now one of 22 and this at 22:15